These are the huge dormant Brabazan hangars at Filton, and this is where the British Concorde production happened during the 1970s. And these hangars are huge. They're over 1,000 feet long, they're over 400 feet wide and over 110 feet high. But the history they represent is much bigger even than that. These hangars were specifically made to accommodate the manufacture of this huge Brabazan Type 1 transatlantic airliner. It was named the Brabazan after the equally large character Lord Brabazan of Tara. Lord Brabazan, GB, MC, PC, honours, and so on and so forth. This was a hugely successful man, and he was in charge of producing the largest airliner of its time, which incorporated the largest piston engines of its time in the largest hangars of the time. The Brabazan was a huge achievement, but what came before the Brabazan? How did it all begin here at Filton? Enter Sir George White, another highly successful engineer of the day. He was affiliated with the Bristol Tramways Company, and they had a site in Filton to manufacture buses and to service the trams. George White rented out some of these sheds for the service and manufacture of aircraft, such as the Bristol fighter, and in so doing began the aerospace industry in Filton. In the 1930s there was a big depression, and this little site at Filton employed the local skilled craftsmen. And this was all just the beginning of this little site in Filton. It went on to manufacture things like the Bristol Beaufighter and the Bristol Blenheim. The first skilled craftsman I worked with as an apprentice was a man called Ralph Young, who had worked on the Bristol Blenheim man and boy. And he said to me, "Ken, it's a man that's never done a day's work, that's never made a mistake." And there were mistakes that came out from the Filton site. The Brabazan itself was a commercial disaster. There were only 2 ever made, and within 4 years they were being chopped up because the gas turbine engines had been invented in the meantime and they were obsolete before they got into the air. It was a mistake, yes, but it was research and development and the cutting edge of engineering at that time. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. Yes, there were failures. The Britannia ended up in the mudflats at the Severn because of a fault which came from the window aperture shapes. But those sort of things are bound to have to be worked through, and it's a company that hasn't made anything that hasn't made any mistakes. We are at the tail end of 2023 as I make this film, and I recently gained access to the hangars just for my own memory lane video really, and I was hurriedly rushed through because the caretaker guy of the hangar is very busy, but I was very lucky to get a chance to film some of the hangar as it stands, because in the imminent future substantial work is going to begin to change these hangars into the YTL arena for Bristol, which I think is great that the hangars will still be used and given some profile and hopefully some historic recognition of what they've achieved on the world stage. You know, to me it didn't matter how bad the footage was, which I hurriedly took as I've said, because to get back into these hangars and get some footage of them as they are just rolled back the years for me instantly, and it seems so strange to imagine all the activity from the 1970s that I lived through in these hangars. And I came to this hangar in October 1974, fresh-faced kid from school, and this was my introduction to the workplace. It just seems so strange to see it so empty now, and as I say, hopefully the YTL arena will utilise it to its full extent. I worked here with some guys. I'm going to give a name check out just in case any of these guys are watching this video. remembered working with Rod Keohane, Les Hodge, Andy Bullen, Barry Graham, Andy Payne, Neil Simmons, Chris Kopp, who I think is deceased now, Mark Snare, Andy Pike, Kerry Austin, Chris Hall. Bob Ramsey was a great guy and taught me a lot. And of course Moochie and Reg, who ran the plastics department at the one end of the hangars. And for the administration there, a guy called Jimmy Street, who was the production manager at the time, and Ron Hunt, who was my long-suffering superintendent. He despaired of my behaviour, as did Brian Dale, my foreman, but they were all fairly tolerant of my non-application. I really didn't value any training that I got there, and it's only in later years I realised that I had fond memories of the place. So I hope these shout-outs land. Leave a message in the comments if you recognise anything you've seen on the film, or have any fond memories yourself of the hangar. Yeah, you know, it would be really interesting if any of the guys that I worked with make any comments in the comments section, and obviously I'll respond. I'll be monitoring the film I've made. Forgive the wobbly footage, and for now I'll fade into that very footage. And this is Ken Betts, airframe fitter on Concorde since October 1974, signing off. Hope you enjoyed the film. I started here on the 21st of October in 1974 as a trainee aircraft fitter, and behind me is the huge Brabazan hangar where myself and countless others worked on the assembly of Concorde. I left here in about 1980, did a little stint in Farnborough, the Royal Aircraft Establishment. I was here in these hangars for 6 or 7 years, so it really rolls back the memories for me. What a huge hangar!